Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode we're going to be discussing Monday Night Football Week 9 of the 2022 NFL season. So in this game of the Monday Night Football, Lamar Jackson and Kenyon Drake took care of business on offense. The Ravens defense came up big and shut down the Saints offense, and as a result, the Saints didn't really do anything in this game, and the Ravens got what turned out to be an easy win. And before we get into the action, there is one thing I would like to discuss, and that is BetUS. So if you don't know what BetUS is, they are an online gambling company that offers sports betting, casino games, and horse racing. And as of 2020, they are an A-rated sportsbook on sportsbookadvisor.com, if that means anything to you. So if you use my link down in the description below, you will get a 125% bonus when you sign up. So click my link down in the description below, go place some bets. It doesn't just have to be football, it can be whatever they have on their website that interests you. And with that little plug-in out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson completed just 12 of 22 passes for 133 yards and 1 touchdown, and 82 yards on 11 carries. So Jackson would get the score and started in this game with a 24-yard touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely, and went into halftime with over 100 yards passing and the score. And it looked like he was on his way to a big night, but he would miss a couple easy would-be touchdowns on back-to-back throws, and also he overshot Demarcus Robinson in the end zone earlier in the game. Now, it was clear that Jackson was missing Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman in this game. Thankfully, they get a much-needed bye to rest up and get healthy ahead of Week 11, so hopefully that means that J.K. Dobbins is able to, Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards can come back, Mark Andrews can come back, Bateman's lost for the year. So hopefully they can get some guys back. But despite the performance from the offense, it seems like Baltimore's offense is finding some semblance of a groove. They needed one drive in this game to work out the kinks before they launched one of the more impressive scoring campaigns of the season. It began on Baltimore's second possession, in which the Ravens covered 76 yards in 11 plays, gaining 5 first downs and converting 3 third-down attempts. A statement of a drive ended with the touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely, which set the tone for another productive night. 4 of the 5 scoring drives for Baltimore required at least 8 plays, and the only quick strike possession came after a takeaway that put the Ravens on the New Orleans 17-yard line. The style in which the Ravens scored was perhaps the most impressive part of it all. Jackson connected with 10 targets on a night in which he didn't have Andrews or Bateman at his disposal. And when you add in Kenyon Drake's 93 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus what Jackson did on the ground, and the offense was well balanced in this game, and they were able to attack the Saints from any angle, and gave the Saints defense fits and helped the Ravens get an empathetic win on national television. Now, as I said, the Ravens offense appears to be finding a groove, and when their offense is well balanced, they can attack a defense from any angle, but the passing game is still a big question mark, and it was clear that Lamar Jackson was struggling in the passing game because he just didn't really have guys to throw it to. Deshaun Jackson was there, sure, but he pulled a hamstring and wasn't of much use. And then you talked about the missed touchdown passes too. Devin Duvernay is basically their number 1 wide receiver, so getting Mark Andrews back after the bye should help, but it certainly looks like Baltimore should try to make another addition at wide receiver. The biggest wide free agent name on the free agent market is Odell Beckham, so if the Ravens are interested, the Ravens should look into trying to acquire his services, and they can certainly present an interesting case to Beckham. They're a playoff caliber team, and getting a guy like Beckham in there can certainly help elevate their offense. Another thing the Ravens are doing is continuing to build momentum on defense. Mike McDonald should get credit for how he's gotten this defense together in recent weeks. They started off early in the season blowing double-digit leads, but they've figured out how to close out games, allowing 18.3 yards per contest in each of the last 3 weeks. They held on to beat Cleveland at home, then hit the road to take down 2 NFC South opponents in Tampa and New Orleans, with Monday night being perhaps their best performance of the season. and that was in part due to Justin Houston, who had 2.5 sacks and interceptions, so shout out to him for his performance. But McDonald also had some timely blitz calls, which shut down multiple touchdown scoring chances for the Saints, forcing them to settle for field goals. Now, the addition of Roquan Smith helped, and I think he will, as he gets more integrated into the defense, he will continue to be a key contributor for them. But overall, this is a total team effort that is producing winning football, and in an NFC North that is far from decided, that could prove to be essential if they want to take this division. As for the Saints, Andy Dalton completed 19 of 29 passes for 210 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So Dalton had thrown 6 touchdowns in his previous 2 starts, leading him to keep the starting gig over Jameis Winston. Perhaps Dennis Allen will change his mind for Week 10 after Dalton failed to move the offense at all in this one. His touchdown was a bit of a fluke, or was a bit lucky, depending on how you want to look at it, as Juwan Johnson was able to tiptoe up the sideline when the Ravens thought he stepped out of bounds. Otherwise, Dalton absorbed 4 sacks, had a tip ball to line of scrimmage that resulted in an interception, and he also missed a wide open Marquez Callaway early in the game for what could have been a touchdown. Dalton has been average under center for the Saints, and if he's been able to do one thing, it's to at least get the ball to Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave consistently for the most part. But ultimately, it might be time to move on from Andy Dalton. Now, the Saints, originally Jameis Winston went down with a back injury, and Dalton was supposed to fill in as a starter for as long as Winston was out. But Winston he's good to go, and basically the Saints ended up just benching Winston as a result, because Andy Dalton, I guess, was the safer option under center. But they're sitting at 3-6, and I think they need to take a hard look at their current standing and decide whether they'd be better off turning back to Winston from here on out. Though a stat line might not indicate it, Dalton struggled against the Ravens. I talked about missing a wide open Marquez Callaway just before halftime, and his only touchdown pass tonight came as a result of that Juwan Johnson play. Alvin Kamara, 9 carries, 30 yards. He can't carry this offense by himself, especially without the aid of Mark Ingram, his backup, and also too without the aid of the passing game either. Chris Olave was pretty much all they really had. Other than that, that's kind of it. And also Dalton just himself hasn't proven that he's capable of elevating the Saints enough to keep them competitive, and so I think that's why it might be better just to go back to Winston, ride out the season with him, and just kind of see what happens. Yeah, but it's kind of a tough spot for the Saints too, because Dalton's not going to be an answer under center. It doesn't seem like they have much confidence in Jameis Winston, considering that they benched him for Dalton, and also the Eagles own their first-round pick in this year's draft, I do believe. So even if they wanted to go get a quarterback this year, they might be hard-pressed to do so. So we'll see what happens with the Saints. And with that, I will wrap up this discussion on Monday Night Football. And now it is time for my favorite segment of the week, that being the throwing in the towel segment. So the way throwing in the towel works is that basically every week I pick one team and throw in the towel on their season, basically labeling them not as contenders but rather pretenders. So just to kind of recap the first 8 weeks. So week 1, that team's that has been rescinded. It was originally the Jets. Yes, I threw in the towel on the Jets after 1 week, but they got a statement win over the Bills, and to me that was enough to think that the Jets have actually turned it around and went from looking like pretenders early in the season to looking like potential contenders late in the season. So I have rescinded that one. Week 2, it was the Texans. Week 3 has also been rescinded. That was the Seahawks, but they got a statement win over the Giants, and honestly they look like they're going to win the division. So yeah, their season's not over. Week 4 it was the Panthers. Week 5 it was the Steelers. Week 6 the Bears. Week 7 the Lions. They did beat the Packers, but that's not a statement win. The Packers are an easy team to beat. Week 8 it was the Jaguars. They did get a win over the Raiders, but then again, that was the Raiders that you beat. Yeah, so it's not really a statement win. The Raiders are a bad football team. Week 9. So now we get into week 9 in my team for this week. And ultimately, I was trying to decide between the Colts and the Raiders. The Colts have fired their head coach. And ultimately, I decided to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. So that is my team for this week. The Josh McDaniels era in Las Vegas has gotten off to a disastrous start. There were 5 instances from 1960 through 2021 in which the Raiders would blow a 17-point lead in a game, according to CBS. And after losing to the Jaguars and falling to 2-6 on the season, the Raiders have now blown 3 17-point leads this season alone. And Raiders fans are apparently calling for Josh McDaniels' ouster after just 8 games, which is understandable. I never really liked the hire anyway. I never really thought Josh McDaniels. I thought he was a good offensive coordinator, but I did not think he'd make a good head coach. It is also understandable that the Raiders fans want him gone. The offense has been inconsistent, and the defense has been awful, and it's not like McDaniels inherited a bad football team. Now, the Raiders did make the playoffs last year, and it was understandable that they would enter the 2022 season with Super Bowl aspirations, which seem unlikely now. And honestly, it might be time to just stick a fork in the Raiders' playoffs hope. At 2-6, they still have flashy names on offense, but they lack substance, which impacts their urgency. Through 9 weeks, they're already tied for the most blown 17-point leads in a single season, per ESPN's Field Yates. After their loss to the Jaguars, Derek Carr hinted that some of the new players must learn to play a full game, which is an interesting takeaway at this point in the season. Dave Ziegler, the GM, will certainly have his hands full reevaluating the roster from top down in the offseason, and that should include Derek Carr as well, as he's part of the team's leadership core. And depending on where they end up drafting, which is likely in the top 10, they might have a chance to draft a blue chip quarterback prospect. And honestly, if that option is available to them, they might as well take it. And yeah, that is my team for this week, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Colts, you're safe for another week, but yeah, they might end up being next week's team maybe. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.